I had like a really gnarly stomach bug like 30 minutes after my race run. And I don't need to go into the details, TMI. Positive mindset needs to kick in because your body just does not heal well when you're negative all the time and when you're, feeling sorry for yourself and all the rest. I let myself have a coffee with my emotions every week if I need them. I personally wasn't happy where I was, but I think I just fell into the comfort of being comfortable. I feel like if you do something hard to start your day, you feel like your whole day is actually going to be easy. I was, classic teenage girl, a little bit off the rails, in the wrong crowd. This is a vulnerable Sian moment.
Sian A'Hern, welcome to the Downtime Podcast, mate. It's nice to have you on for a proper full chat this time round.
Definitely, super stoked. And thank you for having me.
That's a pleasure, mate, a pleasure. You've been rehabbing a bit of an injury from back in Ludenville, which was the last time I saw you. Just talk us through that weekend. It was a bit of a battle for a lot of riders, I think.
Yeah, I think I kind of had the reflection now after coming home and realising what I guess might have gone wrong for me. But it was such a muddy weekend for everyone, and it was just, the weather was insane. Like, we saw a lot of rain. First day of practice was just quite slippery, and long story short, had a washout and a turn, and I just dislocated my shoulder backwards, tore some ligaments, broke the humerus, and a lot of bone bruising. But it's doing a lot better now, so I'm super happy. For me, it was super strange because obviously we've all just come off Andorra the week before, and funny enough, I had like a really gnarly stomach bug like 30 minutes after my race run. And I don't need to go into the details, TMI, but it was not good. And I actually just like literally left the pits pretty much 30 minutes after, like out the car window, like having a chop. It was not good. Anyway, and then I think I spent like 3 or 4 days not really well. And then, then going into the next week, back-to-back racing, then Ludenville. I don't think I was all there like physically or mentally. So then like first day of practice, I think like any kind of crash could have happened given the conditions, but then also I wasn't really there. So unfortunately an injury came from that, but it's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah. Was it like disappointing to end the season a bit early at that point? Or were you kind of like, actually I've been away a long time, nice to get back home?
Yeah, I think I had like bits of both. Like I really feel like I was quite like upset obviously to finish the season like that when I really wanted to kind of turn my whole season around. But then also like in hindsight now, it was the best thing. Like I've really had some time to reflect, and like missing the last World Cup kind of made me realize a lot of things and kind of get myself back to where I want to be and where I need to be. And I think, realizing how much you love the team and all the things that you think through the year is just like, oh wow, so much is happening. It was nice to kind of step away while it all was still happening and almost go like, how do I feel about all of this? And it was really good. So I think kind of a positive going into next season. And injuries sometimes are a blessing in some way, whether we like it or not. It's like downtime, or you get away and have some time for yourself, or time off, whatever it is, mental, physical. But it's overall it's been always a blessing.
Fair play. How's the rehab been from that then? I mean, obviously you're pretty like body savvy, I guess, because you've got your strength and conditioning background. You know all that stuff. You know the body and how it all works. Like, was it a hard one to rehab from, or pretty straightforward?
Pretty straightforward. Like shoulders are shoulders, really. But I have a great physio at home who I was working super closely with, and we were doing a lot of rehab. And I guess I had the time, so it was like almost 30-40 minutes a day of just like proper exercises and building and then treatment and everything. And honestly, like it came good so quick. Like I think it was like 7 weeks now, and I'm feeling pretty normal, kind of back on a bike. And so I'm super grateful for that. And like honestly, it was kind of fun to move my body in other ways and do the rehab. And my physio at home always makes it creative and fun for me, so I'm doing all these balancing things while trying to rehab my shoulder. So it was cool.
Sweet. And I mean, we'll talk about some of the injury stuff in a little bit, but you've had your fair share, and I guess coming back from injury is something that maybe you've got your head around these days. Like, is there a certain approach for you of like getting back on a bike and getting up to speed? Like, how do you work your way through it?
I would say, like, for me, like, obviously you have an injury happens. From that day one, I've now learned, I guess, after as many as I've had, I realized that as soon as you like have your injury, it's like positive mindset needs to kick in, because your body just does not heal well when you're negative all the time, and when you're feeling sorry for yourself and all the rest. Like, it can be bad sometimes, and we all have our days where you feel like the world's against you. But for me, I've now realized, like, because even a few people commented Luden were like, you were so blasé. I didn't realize your shoulder was that bad. I was like, yeah, but like, what was I going to do about it? Like, it was broken. I can't magically make it feel better and then go and do what I want to do. Like, it's broken. I have to go through these, you know, there's a period that you always have to go through with your injury, whether it's 5 weeks, 12 weeks, a year, whatever. There's always a set period, you know? And so for me, I've realized that being positive is like rule number one. Like, I don't let myself get negative about it. I let myself have a coffee with my emotions every week if I need them. And I let myself be sad or cry or whatever needs to be done. But overall, it's like, like I journal my thoughts of anything. Like, if I need negative emotions out, they're gone. Like, I need them gone. But overall, it's like I guess positivity, really, that's my main thing. But I think I'm pretty switched on when it comes to rehab now. It's like, just follow doctor's orders or physio's orders, just do what you need to do, go through the motions. And then for me, it's like staying active, because when I feel in my head anyway, when your blood's flowing, you're like, everything's healing and getting sunshine if you can, unless you're in Wales. But yeah, I mean, like, all the little things make such a difference, and like good food and everything. So for me, that's why I feel like I heal pretty well, because I just put myself into that, okay, heal mindset, go.
Fair play. That's super interesting, because you are like, I'm especially when riders are injured or have got injured on a weekend, I'm always quite cautious of how I would, you know, approach them or talk to them, because you're obviously going through a lot in your head, and you don't necessarily need some random podcast to turn up and say hello. But literally every time I see you, you're always beaming, you always seem to have a smile on your face, you've always got a positive energy, which is super cool. Is it literally one coffee a week with your emotions, or do you need a bit more sometimes to kind of get that negativity out or deal with that? Because it's not, it can't always be like 99% upbeat, right?
No, I mean, we all see the happy Sian, but Sian gets sad sometimes. So yeah, and I mean, I'm not always positive. I love, like, I've been doing a lot of work on my headspace as of late, really, like the last maybe 3 or 4 months, maybe even a bit longer. But yeah, I feel like your brain is so complicated, and I feel like you could talk about this for years and days and everything. But it's I feel like there's so many little things that we all just do, but it's really easy to be negative all the time. And I'd started to get into the habit of speaking so negatively about myself or things around me or everything. And I feel like it got to the point that I then started working with someone, and they've really helped me open my eyes up to how negatively I was speaking, and how kind of those words then shape your reality. And it's just so insane how that all works with your mindset. And I mean, like, I definitely have do down moments. I'm only human, as of everyone. We all go through, you know, life. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I just try and channel, especially at the moment, and I'm kind of really working on this now to go into next season more positively. But yeah, like, I really just try and work with my emotions in a nice way. And, you know, if I have emotions, that's normal, and I then realize where they're coming from. And then I'm like, yeah, journaling's been a big help, to be honest, and like getting what I need out, or writing down like constructive ways to fix the situation. And most of the time it's never as big as you make it in your own head. But yeah, I mean, I think, that's pretty much my main thing when it comes to my mindset. But I mean, like, through the year, for sure, I was not as positive as I feel right now. But I definitely started to build momentum as the year went on. And my team even noticed big time. Like, they were, especially for World Champs, I had 7 weeks of like fix myself before it, like mainly mentally. And obviously I did a lot of bike work before. And then I went to Worlds, and although it wasn't, say, the result that I wanted position-wise, I felt my time was good, and I felt my racecraft was a lot better that week. My attitude was better that week. Like, I really felt like I'd found a routine within myself on how I wanted to approach a race week moving forward. So that was like an awesome, like, I feel like I ended on Andorra. Ludenville, I got 2 practice runs in. So for me, I feel like I ended on where I wanted to be within myself. And I tried not to look at the result. And I said to myself at the end of that, or at the start of the week, I'm not going to let a result define my happiness, because for me, like, the women's field, as we all know, is insane. And like, I got 20 seconds, yet I was 9 seconds off a win. And it's like,
that's mad.
Since when is those times so tight, and you're like that far back in position wise? And that, for me, I was like, okay, I need to just erase that result from my head and just think of like my craft of how I performed on the week, and was I happy with that? And I was like, yeah, I was. So I was like, cool,
Good.
that's progression that I needed to have. And that's like all that mattered for me. I was like, that's results. And I feel like now I can build off that. And it's like, okay, next year we aim, we go. But like, it's like, yeah, I feel like it's just nice to have that. And my Racecraft is my most important thing that I'm like needing to improve on. So that's where I was happy.
That's cool to hear. That journaling then, that obviously has become important to you. Is there a particular structure to that? There's certain questions you journal against, or is it a blank page that you scribble your thoughts down on? How does it work for you?
It's a mix. So I journal a lot about like, just like little nice things to say, whether it's like, putting my mindset into a positive way and just little reminders to myself, whether it is about like for an example, I'd be like, I'd write like my perception is my reality or whatever. And I would write that in there and just like remind myself. But on a race week at Andorra, I journaled a lot. And the journaling I did then was like at the end of each practice, like section, or after let's go from track walk, I guess. After track walk, I would write things that I was like positive about and really excited about, and like kind of went through that. And then I also went with things I would like to tick off and kind of wrote, so then I had my goals in my head of what I wanted to do, how many runs I wanted to do, and I guess like the speed I wanted to do, and like maybe like a rough time, and then just kind of like I just wrote my thoughts of what I wanted to achieve out of the next day and certain things. And then every day I wrote things that I feel like I did really great, and I would write like a little column of just that and write down what I felt like I did good. And then I would write in the next column as like things I can refine by 1%. So it was like whether it'd be like a certain turn or my speed or doing a full run or a feature or I don't know, either just my attitude, whatever it is. Like I just wrote anything into that. And then I would also write myself on the next page, like little, so it'd be like on the same page. It'd just be like little dot points of like nice things to say to myself, like about my confidence or whatever. And I would just write, like reaffirm things that I was already telling myself in my head and write them down. And then I did that every single day. And then so after every practice kind of session, I would write things that I did good, things I can refine. And then, and it actually was really, really helpful, to be honest. Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah, that's super cool. And you mentioned the strength in the women's field. And I guess that's a bit of a double-edged sword, right? As a woman in the sport looking to grow that part of mountain biking, that must feel great. As an athlete that's got to beat these people, that must be like, whoa. And it's just getting stronger, right? You've got Sasha and Aris coming up next year into elite as well. Like the field's just going to get deeper and deeper, which is super cool, but a big challenge.
It's amazing. I think it's great. And I feel like it's an adjustment, like especially for a lot of us girls that maybe were racing a few years ago. And we're so used to it being like, if you got a top, like if you got 20th, for instance, back 3 years ago, whatever, you'd be like, oh, had a bad day. But now you're like, you feel like you've had a bad day because of the result and what it's telling you. But you're like, no, I've had a good day. But it's like so hard to wrap your head around where things are going now. And like, just in general, how stacked it is. And the women are pushing, and I feel like, it's like Valley's really found like limits, right? And she's the one pushing through the limit boundary, and we're all just like catching up. So that's why times are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So it's like the limit is just going to get, like for the men and the women, it's going to get harder and harder to keep beating, right? Yeah. But then it's like all of us keep catching up, and then it's like the times are just getting tinier and tinier. So it's like, that's tricky as well. But I mean, it's cool. I mean, I've kind of really figured out my personal weaknesses now after this year, and that, I mean, that's all I can really ask for. If I'm learning and growing as a racer and a person, like I'm happy, but yeah, I feel like I've really realized that like my racing, my skills on the bike is where I can really refine a lot. Like I'm quite fit and quite strong, and but it's like my mental headspace needs to be improved, and that is what I'm working on a lot, and as well as my racing and my kind of racecraft, let's call it. So yeah, that's good to know. How would you describe
Racecraft then? Because like it makes a lot of sense in the sort of motorsport world where you're up against other people and there's pacing and all this kind of stuff. When it's an individual against the clock, like how do you view Racecraft, or even across the weekend rather than just in a run?
Yeah, I guess in my eyes it'd be like someone that can like handle pressure well when it comes to a race run, handle the nerves well when it comes to a race run, and race really well. Like I guess, I guess we look at the best racers really, like Lowitt, for instance, or whatever. Anyone really, they know how to turn it on when it comes to a race run. Just that extra, few percent every time. And they just know how to race. Like Hattie would be my best example of someone who knows how to race a bike. Like any discipline, that girl just has a dialed racecraft, 100%. And like, obviously one of my best mates, not biased, just saying, she knows her racecraft. But like, honestly, she is incredible. And like, I feel like it's really cool to watch people that have such a good way of racing, and they just know it can be any time, any day, and they just know how to drop what's going on in their life and just race their bike really fast. And that's so cool. And like, for me, I idolize people like that because I'm like, that's what I want to be like. Like, I want to be a better racer. And it was for me figuring out what I was missing. Why am I, you know what I mean? Like, we're all really good bike riders now. It's not like we're looking at the 10 to 100% that we need to fix. It's like these tiny little percentages that make us better. We're all better racers. But yeah, like I think Racecraft for me is just mental headspace, mental game. And then as well as obviously like, yeah, just being able to race really well and flick the switch and just go, I guess, you know.
Yeah. And you've spent a year, I guess, alongside someone in the team now who has been fighting that Racecraft battle. I think when Valley moved up from juniors to elite, there was kind of a lot of pressure and also a lot of learning that's gone on. And I think it feels to me anyway, looking from the outside, that Valley started to refine that over the last few seasons and really started to lock into some stuff that works for her. Have there been things you can take away from, you know, watching Valley work so closely through a race week that can help you, or is the recipe kind of different for everyone?
I'd say definitely like the recipe is different for everyone. Like some of us like maybe talk a bit more and some of us don't and whatever. But I can see a lot of similarities in both of us sometimes with how we act when we come into race week. But yeah, for me, like I really look up to her a lot actually with like how she can win all these titles and win like all the titles imaginable when it comes to juniors, elite and everything, right? But still be fighting to win and still like have the motivation and hunger to still be there and still show up every weekend 110% and give it everything. Like that for me is like something that I've now realized upon the Sian self-reflection of, yeah, I guess like I feel like I reached my biggest goal personally was to be on the factory team. And that was one of the things I wanted since I started racing. And, you know, and then I feel like I've obviously got on the factory team 2 years ago. And, yeah, I feel like I personally just kind of gotten comfortable around the whole, I got my goal, I'm happy, I'm content, like I'm happy where I am. And I personally wasn't happy where I was, but I think I just fell into the comfort of being comfortable. And, yeah, so like literally my biggest goal now is like every day do something uncomfortable. And like whether it comes to bikes or not. And it's like, that's how I start. I'm like, you know, ice baths or whatever it is every day. I'm like, do something cold, do something hard and whatever it is. And then just get myself out there and put myself out of my comfort zone. Because, you know, for me, that's something that I realized I was looking into every area of my life. I was like, well, you've been comfortable, girlfriend. So, yeah. So now I'm like, yeah, I think that's something that I can definitely take away from Valley a lot. So, you know, she just knows how to, again, she's got good racecraft as well. But yeah, it's definitely something I can learn from her for sure.
Yeah. How have you found that? Like trying to do something uncomfortable every day. How is that changing your your life, right? Because it's a very different way to live to being like kind of chill and comfortable.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm just really starting to do that, but it's like, it's so far been amazing. Like I feel like if you do something hard to start your day, you feel like your whole day is actually going to be easy because everything you do then is not as hard. Like even just having an ice bath in the morning or a cold shower even, like you're kind of like, you're standing there like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And yeah, I mean, it's good. You just do it. You breathe through it and then you get on with your day and you're like, okay, the rest of the day I can tackle. And it's like kind of good because I definitely think that's something I can bring into racing as well. So, you know, start your day.
Does it change your belief in yourself as well? Like when you've conquered something every day that you didn't want to do or didn't think you could do?
I think so. I feel like, yeah, everything when it comes to that, like even just eating a good diet or doing like sticking to a schedule and just like, I mean, this goes for normal people, athletes, like everyone, if you can actually just achieve some things and whatever, it just brings, like, I find me personally, like my confidence comes from like all the basics. Like if I'm eating well, I'm happy with my body, I'm exercising well, like and training well, and I'm hitting like little goals throughout a whole day or a whole week, whatever, then my confidence on the bike's better. And then it's like, it goes all connected. Like it's not just, oh, I'm riding really well, I'm confident. It's like, no. Like my personality is important to me and like everything. So it's like, if I don't have everything kind of in check, that's where I feel my confidence gets lower. And that's what happens to me overseas sometimes. Like, you don't train as well because, you know, you're traveling all the time, and there's all these little factors that I need to learn how to kind of adapt to and be able to be more uncomfortable and be like, okay, this is just what I'm handed right now, so make the most of it. And yeah, I feel like that's just something that I'm trying to learn, I guess. And it's good because I've had the year to really figure out how to make myself a better athlete moving forward.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a bit about that, like the ups and downs, or the positives and negatives of being from Australia, right? You're a long, long way away from the vast majority of the racing still as we move into 2025. We've not got any races down your way just yet. But there's some upsides, right? So you're coming home to summer, you've got an off season where you're not like, trying to find trails that aren't covered in water and all this kind of stuff. So how do you look at like the upsides, and then maybe we should talk about some of the challenges and the downsides of being away all year? Yeah,
definitely. I feel like, I mean, upsides for sure is, you get to ride your bike all year, which is great. But also that comes with a negative in itself, that you're burnt out by the time the end of the season comes because you've been riding your bike all year. So that's something I think all of us Aussies have to figure out a little bit. Like, I'm learning now and getting a lot of advice from ex-athletes and stuff who live in Australia. And I'm like, what do I do? Like, it's off season now. I want to ride my bike because it's like awesome weather. Everyone's riding at home. You're like, I just want to ride. And like opening for Threadbow and everything's going on now. You're like, oh, sick, let's go lap. But you're like, should I be like doing something else? Like, I don't know, like, you know? And so I've been like hiking and running and doing other things to try and kind of like get away. And like Josh Carlson's been like, he's a huge like inspiration to me and like someone that's mentored me from day one really. And he was kind of explaining to me, like, he's like, go for like 4 or 5 hours on your bike. Just go for like XC rides, grinds, like whatever you want to do. Because like, I love doing that. True, like personally, I just love it. And then for me, it's like, it's something I can't do all year. So it's like, I'm on my bike, but I'm not doing anything that I can do all year. Because throughout the year, you do 1 hour rides or whatever. And that's it, you know, like you're in the season and you're doing all your little training things, but you're not grinding for hours and having time alone in your head, or, you know, all these things. And like me going for hikes as well, it's like peaceful and like, I love that. So it's like having more time just being out for a while is really nice. So that's I guess, you know, some people have skiing as a hobby or, you know, whatever it is, or surfing or anything. I just don't really have any of that, and I've never really learned any of that. So for me, I'm like, I need to find my hobby. And for me, I just love just going out. So I was like, it's the same but different. So that's definitely one positive, negative. But yeah, I feel like overall there's just a lot of positives living in Australia, like as a whole of where Australia is. And I love Australia for what it is. Like, it's an awesome country. And if anyone hasn't visited, come visit. But it is sick. Like, it's just a cool vibe in general. And I always love coming home after a season. I was a bit nervous this year because I wasn't sure. Like, I'd really enjoyed Europe this year, but came home and within a week I was like, I love home. The food, the weather, everything. I'm like, yeah, okay, we're home.
That's cool. And then, you're away like a lot of the season. And I guess everyone understands the short-term implications of like a long flight and jet lag and all of that kind of stuff that you know, people from Australia and New Zealand deal with, people from the US coming across and Canada deal with. But there's a lot of other stuff I think that maybe people don't realize, like, where's the gym? Like, what road's really good for doing intervals on? Like, you're not, you know, where do I get food that I recognize or that I know works for my diet and what I need as an athlete? Like, there's quite a lot that you have to dial into that, I guess, I mean, maybe that gets easier the more you do it because often you're going back to the same places. But like, how do you find that? I guess it's an increased mental stress while you're away.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, well, just alone being away from home for 7-8 months or whatever it is every year is a challenge in itself. And but I mean, yeah, I've figured out now, like after like 2 years being on the team and 2 years being away, I'm like, you're at moderate stress almost every day, whether you like it or not, because you're constantly like, thinking about everything, because you're not, you know, when you go home and everyone knows what home is, it's just like, you're going through the same motions every day, and it's just like, you know where everything is, like where you drive. I don't even think when I drive sometimes. I end up in like where my destination is, and I'm like, okay, we're here. But like when you're in Europe or somewhere else, you're just like constantly thinking, and you know, so that's something that I think it does tire you out by the end of a season, plus living out of a suitcase, or, you know, all the little things that come along with it. And just your home comforts you don't have for a year. So that always is a bit of a challenge. But yeah, I mean, this year was actually funny because I had planned to come home because I was like, we have a huge break. I'm going to go home, reset, come back for the next part of the season. And then the week before Leger, I spontaneously just decided, I was like, to my team manager, Gunnar, I was like, can you cancel my flight home, please? And he was like, yeah, sure. Anyway, and I just ended up renting with Jess at her place in Morzine and literally just spent the whole time there and just hanging out with her, training, riding, doing everything I needed to do personally. And best decision ever. Like, for me, I got so comfortable over there. I like made new friends and I was like, I just started to like love Europe for the first time in the last 2 years, where I actually was like, I love what I'm doing and where I am. Like I fell in love with it truly. And I fell in love with it in my life again. And it was like the best 6 weeks ever. And I just rode my bike more than I've ever ridden my bike. Like the amount of downhill laps I did, I don't think I've done in like the space of the 2 years. Like I'd just done so many in the 6 weeks. It was insane. Like it was really good for me personally. And I was just really just locked in doing what I needed to do, which was great. So I think like that whole shift in everything made a huge like difference for me going into then Andorra.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you think we'll see more of that in future, like riders basing themselves in Morzine? I don't think I've ever seen, like there's almost more World Cup riders in Morzine that week before Leger than there are at World Cup. It felt like it was insane. Like queuing up on the Plenny was pretty intimidating with like everyone behind you like going, go on, you can go. And you're like, nah, I'm all right, thanks.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I feel like it's a great place. Like I enjoyed it. And I feel like there's so many cool places in Europe you can base yourself, and it just depends where you're comfortable, where you've got people around you, because you know it can get lonely if you're by yourself somewhere. So especially for us Aussies or New Zealanders that have to come all the way over there and we're basing ourselves somewhere, you kind of want a little crew around you, even if they're wherever they're from. And Morzine for me is comfortable because there's a lot of English speakers there. You're central in Europe, but you're not like in like on the border of Czech or something where there's like no English speaking and you know you're in a very foreign place. But for me, Morzine feels like some sort of home, I guess. But yeah, I feel like it's smart to base yourself in Europe. Like I'd love to do that next year as well. Because like, especially with the calendar, it's like, you know, only little breaks, obviously. So it's like, for me, I can't come home and I don't want to go to some random place every 10 days. I would rather have somewhere where I can call home and then just have my routine there. So I'm having that reset every time I go back and just make that home. So that's probably important to me, I think.
Yeah, sweet. Let's wind the clock back a little bit because we've not had you on for a proper full episode before. And I think there's some super interesting stuff in the background. For example, how little time you've actually been on mountain bikes, to be fair. But just tell us a little bit about growing up, because I think motocross was like early days was there for you. So like the comfort with speed, I guess, was something you had from pretty early on.
Yeah, definitely. And like just, I think, bike control, you know, at the end of the day, you're on two wheels. So I think just learning how to do that. But I mean, when I went to mountain biking and made the switch, I was so uncomfortable on a mountain bike. I was just begging my parents. I was like, please, can I go back to motos? Like, I just don't like mountain bikes. I felt so uncomfortable, like trying to jump with one, which just was like foreign to me. Yet motos felt so comfortable. And then it was like trying to just work with how a mountain bike worked. I was like a brick on a bike. And I was just like, and I feel like as a moto, you like, when you ride motos, you don't move a lot, right? You're kind of just like always in that same kind of plane. And you move a little bit here and there, but it's not the same as a mountain bike. Like you're like always moving so much more through your legs especially. And that's something that I was like, and I'm only now starting to understand it like a few years later. But yeah, I mean like motos were a cool like childhood and I'd never take that back. But it was like, it definitely gave me skills going into mountain biking now that I look back on.
Yeah, and it was Kai, your brother Kai, that kind of got into the mountain bike side, I think. And obviously your parents were taking him places and tried to convince you to start going down that route. So I think am I right? You got a bike for Christmas in 2014 and by February 2015 you were racing your first race at a national.
Yeah, it was actually a really funny start because like, I mean, I was, you know, classic teenage girl, a little bit off the rails, in the wrong crowds, all the little, like, you know, you're going through so many changes as a human then and it's a bit overwhelming. And, you know, you're finding yourself and you're in school and all the rest, you know, every teenage girl goes through it. And I guess my parents were like so adamant for me to try something and, you know, really get out of the wrong crowd, but they didn't want to push me too hard. So they were always like, oh, just like gentle pushing, like, oh, why don't you try your brother's bike? I was like, nah, mountain biking is weird. Like, no way. And anyway, and then one day I was like, okay, you know what? I'll try it. Tried it in the backyard. I did this tiny little jump and ate it. Like, ate it so hard. And then my mom was like, oh no, Sian's not going to ride again. Like, this is over. And then I got up and I was like, that was pretty sick, hey? And literally, like, they were like, oh my God, she's half interested. So they literally just bought me a downhill bike, and that was around Christmas time. And so got a downhill bike for Christmas, and I was like pretty stoked when I got it, and then just went out with my brother a few times. And then literally he was going to race Threadborough Nationals in 2015. It was in February. And I was like, why don't I just race it? And Kai's like, I don't know, like ridden like a handful of times. I was like, no, I'll be fine. Like the old moto lid, moto kit, like all the rest. We just went out, and it was actually really sick. Like, kind of, let's say I got thrown into racing, and I feel like if I gave advice to someone else, I'd say maybe don't do it that way, because I feel like that's why I had a lot of injuries and stuff. But you know what? It's like, it's kind of a cool story now, and I'm like, I wouldn't change it. It is what it is.
And you've got athleticism and competitiveness in the family, right? Your father, I think, was an Olympian.
He was a power walker. Yeah, and he's a bit of a weapon. Play. My brother's got a good stride on him. He can do it. I'm no good.
Interesting. So do you think competitiveness was like a natural thing for you? You've been around people that are like that, or do you think it is you rather than like coming from your parents?
It's funny, like I feel like both. Like I'm competitive, but in like a very different way. Like actually this year I was trying to figure out my reasons of why I race. You know, we all want to know why we do something. And I was like, why do I race? Like I thought it was like a selfish reason why I might have. You know, we all have our own selfish reasons why we race. And I was like, oh, why do I race? And I was speaking and I was like trying to figure it out. And I finally came to the conclusion that I actually race for like inspiring younger girls a lot, or younger kids who, like for me, I look back on my past and I never want kids to go through what I kind of went through at school, whether it was like bullying and like all this kind of stuff. Like I was never a comfortable kid as a teenager. And so that was something that was like I'd say hard. Like my high school years were like the hardest of my whole entire life. And I was surrounded by really bad like people, and I think like I feel like you're so easily influenced at that age that I feel like I want to be that person that can influence kids to be who they are. And like that's just like I have so much passion for that side of things. And I realized when I was speaking to someone, they were like, your eyes light up when you speak about like younger girls or kids. And I was like, and she's like, that's your why. And I was like, oh my gosh, it is. Like, and I realized like the whole reason why I do everything I do is because of that. And like I feed off it. Like I love when parents will come up to me and be like, oh, our kids love you. And like, you know, and I just want to be someone that those kids can look up to and like show that like a dream you might have can become a reality, or you can make so much of yourself even if you don't know who you are then, but you will, you know what I mean? Like there's always a light at the end. And I feel like I love to be able to kind of share that. And I feel like I've never actually truly told everyone my whole story of everything, but I would love to do like a video about it one day and just actually fully like open up my heart and say exactly what's going on in my life and just share it all for the whole world to see. Because it's like one of those things I think a lot of kids who are in school could benefit a lot from. And I did a talk at a school end of last year, and it was on International Women's Day. It was this year actually, International Women's Day, and there was 300 girls, and I was so nervous. I've never done public speaking in my life. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this. And I had a few dot points, some GoPros, and like a slideshow in the background of everything. And there were none of them rode mountain bikes. So it was all just like kids, like girls that are in school. And they were so inspired and like in awe of me the whole time. I was like, I loved talking because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like actually reaching out to these kids. And like teenage kids are the hardest to get to, you know, because they're either like, especially when you're like coming to a school to talk, you're like, they're going to diss you. Like I was really nervous for sure. But they were like, oh my God. And like even the teachers, they were like, wow. Like I shared my whole story about my concussion, like my background of like my high school life, everything. Because I wanted to like relate to them. And I told them everything. And yeah, and they were like, wow. And like told them through my career, where I'm at, and blah, blah, blah. And they were, yeah, I guess so inspired. And I had a lot of girls come up to me and like, they were just like, oh my gosh, you are iconic. I was like, oh, thank you.
That's cool.
But it was cathartic? Really cool.
Was it cathartic for you as well? Because it sounds like your experience of being at high school wasn't particularly pleasant. So to go back into that environment and have a good experience must have felt quite nice as well.
It was really nice. And just realizing like some of the girls, they were like, oh, I really want to like start doing some more sport now because of like you. And I've showed them that there's a whole nother side of like, you can make like sporting can be cool. It's not just for the sporty kids to do. And I feel like that's something that was cool that I got across to a lot of those girls because, you know, girls are just like, oh, that's a bit, because I even said, I was like, mountain biking's so weird. I was like, nah. But now I'm like, it's one of the coolest things in the whole world. And I'm like, it is cool. But it's like when you're a kid, it's like you have this vision of things and it's not even what it is. So it's, you know, it was kind of really, I don't know, I felt so whole, I guess, after I walked out of there. It was like, I was tired. I had to have a nap after. I was so like, oh.
That's amazing. Does connecting with your why change how you do some stuff? Does it change how you operate in a bit?
I think so. I feel like at the end of the day, like I realized I wasn't as like selfish as I thought I might have been when it comes to racing. And I was like, oh, okay. I feel like now when I do stuff, it's like I have like little Sian in the back of my head and I'm like, I want to be the person that's there for that girl kind of thing. And I feel like no matter what decision I make in my everyday to day life or when I'm racing and, you know, having a bad day or whatever, it's like show up for young Sian, which is young kids now. So I feel like that's just kind of my little thing now that I remind myself.
That's, nice inspiration for sure. So nationals in 2015, I think you had some like pretty quickly some good results. By 2016, you're off to World Cups. Like, not messing about here, Sian, are you?
Oh, the Sian way is just go all in, live life hard. But I don't know. I feel like it was like I knew I was last year junior. That was it. And I'd obviously started to get into the sport by doing all the national stuff. And I was like, this is my one shot to race as a junior. I was like, well, we may as well go in and do it. And I mean, it was pretty cool because I didn't even know which one my first one was, whether it was Cairns or Fort William. It was one of the two. Cairns. And then I actually like won that one there. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, now I've got like leader's jersey. I was like, Mum and Dad, can we please go to Europe? And I was like, Sian, like, nah. And I was like, nah, please. Like, I was like, what if I like get like an overall or something? I was like, who knows? Like, I would literally, and like, it was like this whole, you never know what's going to happen. And I had no idea who the girls were over there. Like, I didn't know the sport at all. And I was just like, they ended up saying, you know what? She's doing this. Let's support her and back her. And Dad came over with me first. It was just Dad and I, Fort William, Leogang. And I think I won Fort William and then got third at Leogang. And I was like, oh, this is really sick. Like, it was so insane. I was like, whoa. And then I went home after Leogang. And then I went back for World Champs. And I think it was everything. It was like World Champs and Andorra as well, I think.
Yeah.
I believe. And I went back and then I actually crashed out in Andorra and I had broke my wrist. But and then I somehow won the overall. That's all I remember. Won the overall. I had a broken wrist on the podium when I won the overall there. And I was like, wow, this is very strange. All the photos of me in my little sling. And and then I went to Worlds just to watch, just because we'd already booked everything. But I was pretty devo to actually watch that because I was like, well, that was the one opportunity to have like rainbow stripes as a junior. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of one of those things that kind of helped me further down the track to like want to race more and all that stuff. So it was kind of good. But yeah, and then I went home and then I think I had like half a year off, or I had a lot of time off. I haven't really ever raced like how I have these last 2 years. I've always like selected a few World Cups to maybe do or a race, you know. And then in 2017, I think I just raced Cairns World Champs, if that was that year.
I think you were pretty much back at home for 17, and then 18 you were back out to quite a lot of the World Cups. I think at that point with Kai in tow as well, right? He was old enough to race at that point. Yeah. Did that change things having Kai there?
It was awesome. Like, he is just like my comfort in life. Like, I love having my brother around, and like for me, he's like, I don't know, we're just literally best mates, so it makes my life pretty awesome. Like, even we haven't been together all year really, and when he came home, I'm like, I said to him last night, I was like, oh man, I missed you. Like, he's just the vibe around all the time, and we are completely crazy people, but it's awesome. Like, I love it. But yeah, having him at the races was really cool. Like, especially him, his first year then, and he was racing with Canyon then, and it was really cool. Like having, kind of watching him grow up as well at the same time of all this, and he's an insane racer. Like, he really is. And like watching him, I guess, just completely dominate, it was just like, this kid, like crazy long hair Yahoo. But yeah, it was really cool. And like having him around was, I mean, he was on the team and I was a privateer. But I mean, just kind of having his support at the races was great, whether it was like GoPros or line choices or just energy or whatever I needed, or just someone to talk to. He always, and still to this day, like always just knows what I'm going through, and like vice versa. So it's like we're just each other's shoulder all the time, which is nice.
Yeah, really nice to have. So 2019 was your second year elite, I think, or third year elite, but second year kind of away at World Cups doing it. I think you broke into the top 10 a few times, 9th at World Champs at Mont St. Anne. But Kai was there and won Junior World Champs.
Oh my gosh,
which is the one that you'd missed. But like, how was that for you? Like,
actually, the craziest story. Like, I think, you know how, I don't know if you guys remember, but it was like the women had like this quick like run they could do after the junior men finished racing, just because we had a huge gap between practice and race. And I went to go up for that, but then they had a course hold and I was like, oh, this feels weird. And I had already knew that I was going to miss my brother's Worlds run. I was like, well, I've got a race too. And I was kind of devo about it, but I was like, it is what it is. But they had a course hold, and then in my gut, I was like, I don't want to go up for another run. And I was just like, it's going to make it too tight for my race. And I was like, something about it felt off. And I was like, I'm just going to go to the finish. So I went to the finish and walked my bike back up, and my whole family were there, and like Troy's family and everything. Like, we were all just together. And I was like, I'm just going to sit with you guys, and then I'll go up for my race run super soon. And I said, I get to watch Kai's race run, which I was like, oh, awesome. Sitting there, I was like in the sun, just like roasting, but I was like watching, and we were all so like on edge. And then when he won, I was like, we literally lost it. Like, it was like it was the most insane thing as a family. Like, we all just jumped the fence and we were like, oh my freaking God, like, this is insane. And then I think we all had like a little celebration there. And then I was like, oh, I've got a race now. I was like, and I'd like used every bit of energy I had. I was like, oh my gosh. And then anyway, I was like, okay, can I have some water, quick snack, and then I'm going to head up. But I was like, oh my God, I'm like buzzing. And then, I think I'd used all my energy. And then when I went up for my race run, it was like really weird to like come back down to like come back up. Oh, it was very strange. I mean, but man, being there for that for Kai I would take that any day. That was insane.
But was there an element that was challenging for you, like having missed that opportunity to take those junior stripes with injury and the season maybe not going as
definitely.
well as you'd hoped? Like,
yeah. Funny enough, actually, this is a vulnerable Sian moment when I was so happy for my brother, but then we went back to the accommodation that evening, whenever, after the whole day had gone on, and I was laying in my bed and I had my mum sitting next to me, and I was literally just bawling my eyes out. I was like, I can't race anymore. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, I can't do this. Like, I was like, what do I have to do firstly to get support or get on a team? Like, I was like, and I'd had like really good results, you know, like at least shown that there was something there. But I'd never, like, I guess it was really hard without the support. And then I was just like in a weird place. And it was just, I was like, what am I even here for? And I was like, and it was really hard. Like I said to Mum, so happy for Kai. But at the end of the day, I was so, like, it broke me, him winning, like it like personally. And I was like, far out, this is hard. And then my mum said, why don't you just race snowshoe? And like, because we already booked it. And then that can be your last World Cup and you're done. And I was like, okay. I was like, I feel good with that. I was like, let's just have fun, snowshoe, do what you need to do and enjoy it. And then we'll head home and I'll have a few years break. And anyway, snowshoe was so bizarre for me to get like such a good result there. And I was like, and I'd finished the week and I was like, Mum, I want to race again. And she was like, no, Sean. Remember last week?
Because you got sixth, right?
Yeah, like time training, I think I got second. And then qualies, I got like fifth, I think, or something. And I was like, or third or fourth. It was like something insane. I was like, oh my gosh, I could podium. Like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, I was just having fun, truly. Like, I was just like riding, felt good. Anyway, I was like, okay, whatever, great. And then when finals, I got sixth. I was like, I was just shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I want to race again. And then your mum just was like, no, we're going to go home. I was like, okay, we're going home. Anyway, and then, I got home and I'd already decided for like 2 years break. Like, I was like, okay, I need 2 years to just like work, get my life on track, figure out what I want to do, because I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Anyway, so then, it was like 2 years off just working my own business and everything, and just kind of with mum and dad and just doing life. And and then I think it was like 2021, it was like July of 2021. I just had like a crash because I'd started to train again, and I was like, you know what, I want to start to race again. And and I'd had a crash, and then that's when I had my brain injury.
This was a big crash though, Sian, right? This was at Stromlo,
yeah? Yeah, that was pretty gnarly. I'd like punctured my lung, like I had like a concussion initially, and I was out for quite some time, and I had like damage to my face, and then I broke my shoulder and my wrist, and I had just like, everything was just a mess. Like it was a pretty big one. And actually like someone found me. That was the worst part. Like I was just out alone and someone found me like over a berm unconscious, like pretty gnarly.
Whoa.
But it was like definitely a heavy crash. And and then I guess like with that injury it was super strange because I like had a lot of like that whole week after was pretty rough. Like I still have no memory of that week kind of thing. And I had like a lot of short-term memory loss for like 4 months after. And I just couldn't remember anything. And I had trouble with my speech and speaking and like certain words. And I just, after like rehab and a lot of doctors I was seeing, kind of started to get better. And then all my symptoms came back again. So it was like kind of better and then worse again. And then that's when I had post-concussion syndrome. And so then that lasted like, I think it was 13 months from start to finish of like this head injury that just never felt like it would ever go away. And then, and I feel like then I started to come good. And it was super timely, this one. But it was like, kind of started to come good from that head injury. I started riding and racing at home a bit more. And it's like, okay, this is pretty sick. Like built momentum, I guess, with everything again. And then I got this random call from YT after I'd just signed with them as like a ambassador kind of in Australia. And they said, oh, like, we're super interested. Like, we'd love you to come to Whistler just as like I guess they were like, oh, like just we want to meet you and see what you're all about, because they'd just seen me online and whatever. And I was like, Paul, this is random, but like my first ever paid trip, I was like, I'll take it. Like they're paying for my stuff. I was like, never had a flight paid for before. Like this is insane. And so I was like, okay, I've got, and I initially I was like, do I want to do this? To like my family, I had a chat with them. It's like, should I give racing one more try? Like, because I was like, I don't know if I want to. And I was like, what have I got to lose? I was like, these people are paying for me to come over. Like, just go and race it, go and see, and then enjoy it. And I was like, okay. And I did that. And and that's when I raced Crankworks there. And it was like my first proper race back. And and then I literally was like second in Canadian Open. And I was like,
to Tracy, right? Who's the
queen of that track. And it was like 0.6 behind her, I think. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, and she'd just gone off from like winning World Cups and stuff. So I was like, okay, like, right. And like it was insane. And then I had like, it was probably one of the best trips in my life with YT, like, or just in general, like as a personal, like I really feel like it was like my first trip away from my family, like without my family. I was like just alone and like kind of found who Sian was. Like that trip was like everything for me. It was really cool. And then I literally went to, race that, and then had the week with the YT crew, and they was such a great vibe. I was like, wow, this company is insane. Like these guys are incredible. And then I went home after that trip, didn't think much of it, and they were like, oh, are you racing any other Crankworks? I was like, yeah, maybe Cairns, I guess. So I raced Cairns, and then I was 0.1 off Tracy there, and that's her home track. I was like, what in the heck is going on? Like, incredible. And then after that, YT then messaged and said, can you get to Rotorua? Because we'd love you to race there as well. You may as well finish off the season with Crankworks. I was like, okay, why not? Went there, and then I won the first downhill of that week in the, I think, Taniwa downhill. Mm-hmm. And I won that one, and I was like, whoa, that's so sick. Like, it was just insane. And then, and then after that, they were already starting to talk to me about like what my plans were moving forward. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I hadn't thought about it. And and then I guess, long story short, it was like I had an honest chat with myself if I wanted to return to World Cups. And then I put myself out there to them and was like, do you guys want to support this? And then they were like, oh, wow, like, let us leave it with us. Let's see. And because I was like really afraid to ask because I was so scared of being turned down after being turned down a lot in my career initially. And so I was like, oh, I was so afraid. And a lady who was working with YT at the time said, we had a nice, like, honest, open chat about stuff. And she was like, you'd be surprised, but she's like, just ask. Like, just put the question out there. And I was like, she's like, if that's what you want to do, ask. And I was like, okay. I had a chat to my family. Within a week, I was like, all right, I want to do this. So then, randomly, I just got an email saying, oh, we'd like you to chat with our team manager and JP. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is insane. I was like, maybe they want me to be on a B team or something. I was like, nah, they won't. I could not believe that they'd ever want to actually have me on the team. And it's like, no. And then, when I got the call and they were like, so you'll be on the YT mod next year. And I was like, sorry. Like, I just went so red and I was like, I couldn't actually like compute what was happening. I was like, oh my gosh, like they just like, oh, my dream had literally come true in that moment. And I was like, wow, like incredible. And and then literally it all just kind of fell into place. Team camp a few months after that, and then it was like, okay, into World Cups. But it happened all so fast. But I still to this day can't believe that actually happened. Like, it's still incredible for me.
It's a big change, isn't it? Yeah, suddenly having that factory support that you've kind of worked for, all that time. I guess it was like the downhill setup, certainly at the start of 23 was less significant than it is now, right? So it was you and Oisin, and it was a much more straightforward like van and a tent kind of thing, but still like
it was chill.
Must have felt so good.
Huge for me. But I mean, I also I don't think going into a factory team for that first year would have been any good for me. I feel like having that kind of like smaller support staff and just like everyone, it was quite a tight-knit little crew, and I think that was awesome to kind of find my feet a bit on like World Cups, because truly it was like such a big world for me. I felt like the tiniest little fish in this huge pond, like, and and only now I'm starting to be like, I belong here, and like I'm believing that now, and it took 2 years to believe it, but I do believe it now, and it's like, wow, okay. But that's something that if I had this whole factory support that I have now this year that we've had, coming into that would have almost been overwhelming, I'd say. And like, it was really nice to have just like this crew that it felt like a little family. And I was just like, okay, this is like going on camping trips with my family. It's no different really. Like, and that was cool about it. So I think like for me, a small setup is always something that like I'm used to. So it wasn't a huge change from what I'd had, I guess, other than being at the World Cups with someone fixing my bike and someone doing something for you. Usually it was all me, but it's so nice. Like, that was something that was an adjustment, but overall it was nice having a smaller kind of setup.
Yeah. Why do you think it was that you felt like you didn't belong in the sport when you kind of came back after that break? Because you demonstrated clearly that you had the speed, you're up there at Crankworks, you've had great results in the past. Like, why didn't you feel that you should be there?
I don't know. I still feel like I've got to answer that question to this day, but I don't know. I just feel like it's one of those things I don't know. I always felt like I had never believed that I actually could get on a team or race World Cups professionally, or I don't know. There wasn't that belief in myself. So then when it happened, I could never, it was like, I guess, imposter syndrome in that sense. Like, I just never felt like that was where I belonged. Like, I don't know. It was super weird, but then I don't know, it's really taken my team know that I don't believe it sometimes. Like, they have more belief in me than I have in me sometimes. And that's like insane. But yeah, it's like they say to me, like, you belong here. Like, they have to tell me all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah. But it's always one of those things I have to believe it. And like, only now I'm like, I do belong here. Like, I've got amazing friends and like I'm part of this whole thing now. And I feel like that's something that took a while to believe, but I don't know. I feel like that whole thing has to come from within. Like, I don't know. That's just a tricky one though. I don't know why. I feel like just because Australia is so disconnected, and I just grown up around the comfort of Australian people and everything, and it was just kind of going to World Cups, and it's still to this day I've got this like little mental block at World Cup races, and I don't know. I still can't answer the reason of why, but it's like that's something I'm figuring out. But it's like, it's just one of those things. I think it's just because I still don't have the answer, but I feel like, it's probably just because, it's just different for me, that whole world over there.
Did it get harder in 2024? Because I think you started off in the smaller setup, but after a couple of rounds moved to this, I would say probably the nicest truck in the entire pit. A huge pit setup, like amazing coffee and everything. Great crew around you, bringing Valley in. So you've got this multiple-time world champion, World Series winner in the same pit. Does that make it kind of even harder to find that feeling of comfort and belonging?
Yes and no. I mean, the comfort in the truck and that whole setup is insane. Like, that thing is like better than most people's homes. Like, honestly, that thing is insane. So I'm like, the comfort is not the problem here, like, not at all. But it was definitely like, obviously Valley coming onto the team, there was a lot more attention onto the team, and that was something to adjust to as well. So it's like having more people in the pit, having more eyes on the pit, and like what everyone's doing, that was definitely something to be like, oh, okay, that's different. But yeah, I would say like the comfort was not an issue, or like I really felt at home in that pit straight away. Like, I don't know, the whole team made it so comfortable. Like, there was never a moment where we were like, I don't know, because it was so new. I was actually almost concerned that it was going to be a bit like, oh, where can we rest, or, you know, but it was like, there was dedicated areas for everything, and like, you know, everyone made it so comfortable for us to like do what we needed to do, and it was really good. And like, we had space to do it, and we actually had just more time to be alone or private if we wanted to, and the facilities to eat better food and all that stuff. So I think like overall it was like, it's insane. Like, you realize where all of that comes from. It's just, yeah, it's incredible. It does help for sure. But I mean, it's not the reason why performance comes from. Like, we can all do it from a basic setup, but it definitely helps with feeling more comfortable on the road when you have a consistent home away from home, I guess.
Definitely. And there was a team sign-in to the mob that kind of went a bit under the radar in 2024. They signed your mum to the team. Right? Yeah,
that's pretty funny. It was super random, actually, because like, yeah, it just happened. She was actually cooking for my brother's team last year in 2023, and and then Gunnar was like, oh, like, started to chat with her, and then we kind of needed someone to cook for the team, and then all just fell into place, and then next minute she's over there at the races with me. So I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Were you ever concerned about that? Like, because it can definitely change the dynamic, I guess, but it sounds like you've got a super good relationship with your mum.
Oh, for sure. But no, initially I was like a bit worried about it, because I was like, oh, and I mean, Gunnar asked me straight away, he said, the decision's on you. Like, if you don't want your mum there, that's on you. Like, totally cool, we'll find another option, that's not a worry. Because he's like, you have to be comfortable, like, you're the priority here. So he's like, if you don't want your mum there, just say it, all good. But I then spoke to my brother about it, and like kind of had some time just to think about it, and I was like, no, I think it's going to be good. And then mum and I set boundaries between each other. We were like, okay, when we're over there, no mum, no daughter, like, you're staff and I'm athlete, that's that. And then if we want that separate time, we can have that time. It was funny a few times, like, she'd start to be like, oh, Sian, like, don't do that. I'll be like, not my mum. And then vice versa. Like, I called, I think it was at Poland, I called her, and I called mum. I was like, mum, I was on the side of the track. I'd ripped my pants and I'd had a crash or whatever. And I was just like, can you please go and get me some pants from the accommodation? And she's like, not your mum. I was like, touche.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, it was just like, you know, I guess when we're both at work, you can't call upon mum favors at work. And that's the thing. So it was like really good that we set those boundaries, I think, just to kind of help to make sure that, you know, and also we didn't want our family stuff to get into too much involved into the team as well, because that's not fair on anyone as well. So it was really professional the whole year, I'd say. Like, it was never, she would never treat me different to anyone else. Like, we were all the same. So that was pretty cool. Definitely.
But they do seem to have managed to create, to some extent, like a bit of a family vibe to the team. Like, a lot of brands say things and you don't always feel them, whereas YT do say, you know, good vibes. And my personal experience of everything I've ever been involved with them kind of rings true to that, which is quite impressive.
Truly.
And I think like Oisin's dad goes to a lot of the World Cups. It does feel like there's a really good, comfortable vibe in the pit.
And like, I mean, the whole team is so welcoming. Like, I know people always say this, like, they come into our pit and it's like such a like open arms, like, anyone, you know, come on in, and like, we're all quite open. And like, I think it's really nice that it's not so standoffish, and, you know, it's really nice like how open people are, and like, it does feel like we all have our place. And like, I don't know, I just feel like I have support on the whole team no matter what's going on in my life. Like, you know, you've got those few people you talk to about your personal stuff, you've got few people to talk about, like, you know, you've got all these people that just kind of like can help you no matter what. And it's like, that's pretty special. And like to actually be or feel comfortable around a team to be yourself, like that's really cool. So I'm very happy and grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah, good place to be. So you've had some time to reflect now. You've been back at home for a couple of months. Like, how do you look at your 2024 season now you've had a chance to put everything into perspective?
For me, I've like definitely, I haven't set too many goals just yet. I'm in the process of thinking what I really want out of next year. And yeah, I mean, for me personally, I just want to kind of really put everything I have into next year. Like for me, it's like a really important year to actually show what I'm capable of. And I want to be able to unlock that potential, which I know and the team know that I have, but like I want to be able to prove that. And it's like, for me, I don't even mind about anything else. It's like, that's all I want to live and breathe for the next year, because I'm like, I feel like I've said it every year, but I'm like, I guess every year I've just learned something, but it's like, I feel like all the things that I've learned over the last 2 years, I can really put into play now for next year. And like, and now that I know the things that I'm not good at or that I really need to work on, it's like, that is what I need to focus my energy on. And yeah, like, I mean, I'm training with my dad now, fully back to my roots. So he's my coach
Sweet.
now. I'm moving forward. And that really excites me. And I actually, like, Josh Carlson is going to be helping me with my on-bike stuff, which is really good to have him and his support here in Australia. And I think that's going to help a lot, having someone like dissect my riding and be like helping me to actually be better on the bike. And I feel like that's something that I've never had, and that will be really cool to have. But yeah, and overall, like, I just feel like I have a really good team around me when it comes to like my team, my family, and a few people that are just in my corner. That's like really all I could ask for. Like, I feel like I've got all the areas of my life covered. And yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to next year already. And like, I feel like it's good. Like, I've got a good base with the team, and I'm really happy with the team. And I feel like we're all, after this year, it was very new for everyone in the team. And I feel like now we've all had our little meetings and we've all dissected what we wanted through about the whole year, and really like spoken about what we can improve on and what we felt was like good and bad and whatever. And we're all wanting to be better at it. So I think like that's really cool that we can have those open conversations to be better moving forward to next year.
Definitely. And testing seems to be like more and more a part of downhill these days. Like, I think Specialized have been leading the charge there. So are there plans with you and your mechanics? Patrick, isn't it your mechanic? Like in the off season, is he going to come over and spend some time with you? Like, how's that all work? Because he's a long way away, I guess.
Yeah. Still just waiting to hear about all of that. I think we're having a meeting soon about plans. But yeah, we have like a blocker. We're going somewhere in the world in December, I think. So yeah, very early, which is good. So get the off season started. And yeah, I mean, it'll just be kind of cool just to kind of get everyone back together. But yeah, plans wise with the team testing and stuff is just a bit not sure right now. But I think it was nice. Like, we just finished, and it's nice to have a few weeks of everyone going on holiday or leave and just kind of have some downtime. And then it's like, all right, now we switch back on and lock into everything coming into the next season.
Yeah, and you had the new bike like at the start of the 24 season, so maybe a bit more consistency in the off season, like a bit less change, less to adapt to.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I feel like I made such a big progress after last year, but I feel like I've got a lot now that I feel like I've really got the bike where I want it. I feel like I can do a lot more with suspension, to be honest. So I think like that is something that's my priority, because I feel like the bike is comfortable where I want it. And I feel like that's where Josh can come in a lot as well, by seeing how I'm working on the bike. And he really wants to play with my like front end and kind of hopefully put it up a bit more to kind of like put me back on the bike a bit more. And we've all said the same, but it's good if I've got someone there with me to like actually play around with stuff. And I think like having my bike set up better for me to be able to like ride through sections faster and not be so like, because I always get spat forward on the bike, for instance. So it's like, that's something that we're really trying to change. And like me dropping my heels more, probably like the two biggest things in my whole riding. So yeah, having Josh to help like maybe pinpoint where it's coming from and what we can do to make it better is going to be really, really good.
Josh and you are like two of the most high energy people I've ever met at a World Cup. I can't imagine what you're going to be like together. That's a lot of energy. Funny
enough, like, I don't know, we have energy, but it's like really constructive. Like when we actually work together, like we did like we commentated national champs this year together because I wasn't racing, and we did that together. But like when we're working together, we're just like a good little dynamic duo. Like it just works good, and like even I actually commentated at the World Cup, the junior women together in the booth, and that was like,
mate.
It was sick. Thank you. But yeah, it was super sick. And like, I don't know, he's one of those people that has my best interests at heart, like as personal. Like he's amazing, and he, I guess, actually wants to see me do the best. Like I remember some nights at some of the World Cups, he'd come over and give me that pep talk and just talk to me about, okay, mate, like blah, blah, blah. And he's really real with me. He's honest and brutal and real. And like, I value that so much with him. And like, but he doesn't say it to put me down. Like I feel it in his energy, in his heart, that he's like, wants me to be better. So he's whatever he says to me, I just have complete and utter trust in. And so that is something that I value a lot in him. So it's really funny. We have a lot of energy, but I don't know, we use it in different ways. But yeah, it's good.
That's cool. Yeah, it's good that you found that partnership. It sounds like that would be super productive. And rumour, if the rumours are to be believed, then you've got another addition to the YT mob for 2025. Like, are you looking forward to having a bigger and better team?
Yeah, I am actually. I think it's going to be really, really good. And yeah, having more riders is always kind of nice sometimes, I think, because, you know, it's just spread attention and we've all got our own little things. So I think it could be really cool. And I feel like the vibes are going to be really good. So I'm very, very excited.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing a refreshed mob in 2025. Same. I think it's going to be good. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the changes to the World Cup. I don't want to get heavy on it. I think there's a lot of positivity there if we look at it in the right way. And one of the things that Warner Brothers talked about kind of bringing into the sport was more outside investment, which I think we've started to see little glimmers of, but we haven't seen heaps so far. But I think compared to a lot of riders, you seem to have done like a good job in picking up some outside of industry support. I think there's like
definitely
3 or 4 brands that you work with. Plus I think you're kind of ambassador for Threadbow out in Australia. Like
I actually do have a lot. Yeah.
How's that come together? Like, have you got a specific approach that you think's work? Like, why do you think you've been successful there?
I don't know. I feel like personally, I have like a lot of a brand behind me that isn't just bikes. Like, I feel like I have a lot of energy and a lot of a personality behind me. And I feel like that's been really valuable. And plus I do a lot of other things when I'm at home, you know, like other camping things and whatever else I do. I feel like I've been really good at showing that side of my life and being like quite real on my Instagram, especially. And so like, I feel like it all just kind of like fell into place, but it was like, Dometic started sponsoring me, which is like a fridge freezer kind of company and like camping, you know, they've got amazing stuff. And like, I picked up them after they asked me to do a photo shoot for them. Like it was just like they needed a mountain biker. And then they loved me on that shoot and they're like, oh, you're so awesome. Like you'd be a really good fit for us. And then literally that just came from there, and that opened up like a whole avenue of like lifestyle opportunities. And then it was like Brixton for my clothing, and then it was like a car sponsorship now, and then it's like Threadbow or Boost Mobile. Like it's like all these other companies, but I feel like it's really cool because they all complement your life. Like in some way or another, they complement your life. And for me, every person I ever work with, I want it to be as real as possible. Like I don't just accept sponsors because of money or whatever. Like it's like if I actually am going to use the product, or actually like I love what they do or the value of the company or everything, like that's something that I look into, and I'm pretty firm on that, and I always will be. But I feel like I don't know, I've been probably good at that because you can talk in front of a camera and all that stuff, and I feel like there's a lot behind that, and it's not just, you know, because results are results and all, but there's a lot more that sells product at the end of the day. And it's like, you know, if you've got a great personality or someone that someone looks up to and can relate to, that's really key. And I know even Threadbow used me for the like beginner mountain bike guides. Like there was one I posted the other day, and it was like step by step on how to do everything, and then in the resort. And like I think everyone's always said that like I have a very approachable kind of personality, like, and I think that's really cool. So I feel like that's something that they probably see other companies as well. But I mean, I've always run my own program here. Like I've never had a manager or anything, and I've always just done my own thing, which I really like, and I've respected a lot within myself, because I'm like, I've achieved everything I've got in my life, and I think that's really cool. And I love being able to control it myself and being like, I achieved this and I did this, and you know, and I learn all the time. So I mean, at the end of the day, we're all learning. So that's something I really like. But yeah, very grateful for everything I have, truly.
Yeah, no, fair play. And what about the general vibe from you for all the changes? So we've got like, I guess, a more pointy top end to the sport coming our way. Yeah. We've got changes to like the qualifying setup. We've got more women going through to finals, which I think is a really good thing. You could probably argue that there could be even more women going through with the quality of the field, but
I'll take what I can get.
It's a step in the right direction.
Definitely. No, I think it's actually really good. Like, I mean, everyone in their own world and life is like, no one loves change. Like, that's just humans. And so, like, obviously there's a lot of, like, I don't know, tension about what's going on, let's say. But I think overall, like, if we all take a step away, like, give it a few more years, I think what Warner Brothers is doing is actually really positive for the sport. But it's going to be a rough patch for everyone because it's the unknown right now. Like, it's just unknown. But I mean, honestly, soon as I mean, we all start to find our feet with everything, and, like, you know, the new norm becomes normal, then it's like, I think everyone will be really happy with where it's going. And I mean, if I'm honest, like, I think it's really good, like, having a little bit more of, like, pointy end in the World Cups, because I think sometimes there's some people that can race a World Cup. Even like myself, when I first started racing, I should not have been allowed to race a World Cup yet. You know, like, it's actually, like, it's dangerous. And I feel like, you know, I ended up injured from it, and so many people can. And, like, I think we're just not experienced enough, but all you have to do is just have the points, or your federation enters you. And I feel like if some of the countries that are quite little and, like, not many people, you can get into World Cups so easy. And especially, like, some women as well, like, there's not many women in some countries, you know. And, like, I think that's the thing, it's actually quite not a good thing in that direction. Like, I know it's really nice to be inclusive, but also there's, like, the other side of it where I think it should be really hard to get to. And so then when you are in the World Cups, it's like, I'm a World Cup racer, this is, like, you know, you are at the pointy end. But, like, you know, and I know that there will be, like, stepping stones to get to World Cups then. It's like, I know it's all unknown right now, a lot of things, but I think it will be really good moving forward to have, you know, because other series and things will become bigger because of, like, the stepping stones. So I think it's, like, overall, I think it's going to, like, build more progression in the sport. But I think it's, like, it's hard to look at now because everyone's like, oh my God, like, freak out. But I think, you know, if you take a step away and take your personal feelings away from it all, it's actually really good, I think, for the sport moving forward.
Yeah, so, painful couple of years, but hopefully all for the best. From like, again, a racecraft point of view, how important is it going to be for you to try and get through in quali 1 and not have to race quali 2?
I mean, that would be awesome. I mean, I'm definitely, like, I think I just want to try and set, like, a really, for me, like, for instance, being on a team, or trying to be on a team was, like, an unrealistic goal for me. It didn't feel real. Like, it still was something else, like, I'll never get, but I'll have it as a goal. So I want to make a goal like that for myself for next year. It'd be like, unrealistic goal. Gotta hopefully get it. But then, like, I want to also have realistic goals of, like, stepping stones to get where I want to be. So it's like, okay, you know, like, being in the top 10 would be insane. But, like, I've also got to think about who is racing and, like, how hard it is going to be. So it's like, okay, I think I really would love to just make sure I'm in finals. Like, if I can make finals every single race, I'll be so happy. Or at least a few. Like, that would be insane. But, yeah, I mean, and it's very achievable. All I have to do is just these 1%ers and I'll get there. But it's just, I guess, like, for me, I think it'd be really cool not to have to race the Q2. But also, I'm like, at the end of the day, another race run, I'll just make sure I'm fit enough to make sure I can do it. Like, it's not the end of the world. I would just love to see myself race finals. That's, you know, whatever it is. If I have to do 2 race runs or 1, so be it. Like, you know, either. I think that'll be fine. And I guess the two sort of qualifier format is sort of what you've become used to with semis as well, right? Yeah,
so you've kind of been doing something similar anyway. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I've never, like, enjoyed it that much, but also, like, maybe I haven't been fit enough when it comes to, like, that racing kind of mindset. And I feel like that's something I started doing more and more, full runs and race runs in Morzine, and that helped me so much. Like, I was just doing full runs for practice, no stress, easy. And, like, that's something that I never used to be able to do. So I was like, okay, I need to incorporate more of that into my training, and then I should be able to be a bit more comfortable doing so when it comes to racing, you know. So I think that's, like, all it is. It's just conditioning yourself for what might come. I think, like, I think I want to be prepared for either scenario because you just don't know.
Yeah. And the last couple of years, there's been a pretty hectic battle between you and Nina Hoffman at Thredbo. I think it's 1-1 at the moment. I think you got her in 23 and she had you in 24. Do we know if there's a decider of that? Are you keen to go again? I mean,
she wanted to come to Australia and come spend some time here. I mean, so far, hopefully everyone's coming here, but we'll see. But I mean, like, I think Hattie's coming back to Australia too, so I'm pretty excited. But yeah, I mean, if Nina comes, I'll be pretty stoked. I think we're gonna really see who takes out the win this year. But I mean, it's so sick. Like, it was so funny that the first year I beat her, she was like, oh my gosh. And then the second year she beat me, I think it was like by point something, like it was close. And she was like, I wanted to win so bad. She said to me after, she's like, I wanted to win so bad. She was like, I came into the woods at the bottom like, I want to win, I want to win, I want to win, I want to win. Like, just kept going. And then she like said, I could not have given more. She was like, I gave everything. I was like, yeah, good. I like it. Me too. It was insane.
Nice.
Like, it was really sick. Like, I love it. I think it's such a sick vibe Nina and I have for sure. I love it.
There seems to generally be a pretty good vibe in and amongst the women's field, right? Like,
for sure.
You guys like hang out away from the races to some extent, and like, it seems cool.
I think we all have our own little crews within it all, but I think we all get along so well. Like, there's not, I think, all the girls I respect so much in general, and I think we all have our own little quirks and stuff, so we all kind of do our own thing. But I think it's cool. Like, I think there's not a lot of sports that you can actually go and hang out with people that you're competing against willingly and be all good with it. Like, I mean, I actually have some of my best mates, like literally my best mate, like Jess. Like, I'm like, how the heck can someone be your best friend and you race them? Like, and yet you're so happy for each other, and like, it's so wholesome. So I'm like, that's really cool. Not many sports you can do that.
Nah, it's a good old sport. Right, we should start wrapping up, Sian. We've got our final 4 questions that we've hit most people with these days. First one of those, if our listeners had £150, which is about 300 Aussie dollars to spend to improve their performance on a bike, what would you recommend they go spend it on?
That's not a lot of money, is it, these days?
It's not a lot. Doesn't go far.
Oh, man. I would say... I'm going to leave you here for days. I could be like, a good helmet, No, but that won't even afford you a helmet. I would say, I don't know how expensive things are these days.
Actually, you don't have to pay for it, do you?
I was like, a Garmin. I was like, nope, definitely not a Garmin. You're not getting a Garmin for that. $300 Australian dollars.
Yeah, if you looked in the sale, you might get yourself a sort of reasonable bike computer, I reckon, for that.
Because I feel like they're always good to just track some of your training. I feel like they're good. I would say suspension is like key, but you're not going to afford suspension with that. Not something that's going to help anyway.
You might be able to get a little bit of setup day or something like that. That'd be a help.
Or even like, I would say even just like a coach. You could get a lesson with a coach. That is what you could actually afford. I'm going to say that.
You can get half a day with Josh Carlson.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that 100%.
All right, like it. Next one. If you could wind back the clock and sit down with yourself age 16, what advice would you give her? Which I guess is before you even started racing, right?
It is. I would say be you. And whatever that is, that's it.
Do you think you're the closest you've ever been to that now? Like, are you there?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm Sian. What you see is what you get.
Sweet. It's the best way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Next one. If you could have a coaching session from anyone, past or present, and it's not Josh Carlson, who would it be, and what would you want to learn from them?
Actually, it would be my coach from this year, Alan Milway. I would say he is so knowledgeable with people on bike. Like, I would still love to get a session with him. So whenever I'm in the UK, I'm going to try and hit him up. But I think he's got a lot of experience and knowledge, and like, I really value everything he says. Like, he's incredible for sure. So yeah, that would be the person.
And I guess having him trackside as well at the World Cups is useful, right? Because he's generally up on the hill quite a lot.
Definitely. Yeah. No, he's very insightful.
He is a smart man. All right, last one. What is something that you do every day that you feel benefits you?
Say the cold shower at the moment, but just really good food. Like, when I eat really good food, your whole body feels amazing. So yeah, food. I love food too.
How do you define good food? Like, what makes food good for you?
Whole foods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cooking everything from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, I love good meat, good veg, and fruit. I love fruit. But yeah, all that food's so good. I love it. I love all foods. And then I love a Tim Tam. That's my disclaimer, not whole food.
Classic. The Aussies creeping in there. Nice.
I don't know what I'd do without them.
It's been an absolute pleasure finding out a bit more about you, hearing a bit about the past and the present of what you've been up to. If people are keen to follow you throughout the year, like, where's the best place for them to be looking?
Definitely Instagram. I put all the little mashups on there, all my little stories. So yeah, that's probably where I put all my stuff on. So yeah, definitely Instagram.
Nice one. Cool. I'll stick a link in that to the show notes. People can find it. But yeah, thanks, mate. It's been a real pleasure. I hope you have a good off season. And yeah, we look forward to seeing how you get on next year.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers, Sian.
See ya.